Hello, I'm Kristina Zachary with the Zachary team. We are here to do our very first podcast. Of course, y'all can always say hi to Gabriel. He's not only behind the camera, but he's behind the scenes handling everything. But we're here today to talk to Zavier Branch.
Hi.
And he's our first guest on our first official podcast, Home Sweet Home San Antonio Live. So I know y'all on YouTube are going to see this and we're not going to be live, but you guys have to kind of look below for the information of when we're going to be live next. It's going to be the first Thursday of every month, right, babe? Okay, cool, great. So, again, we're just going with the motion. This is our very first podcast. We're super excited to have Zavier here. He is the owner and not co-founder. Oh my gosh, you can't be the owner and co-founder. You're the owner of ZB Home Company. And the moment that we met you at the Chamber of Commerce, we just were so excited and thrilled to just have you immediately on our podcast. Because we love when we see someone from California move to Texas, adopt the Texas way, and then look at themselves as a Texan.
Yes, I know. I've been here for about 6 years now, and yeah, I consider myself a Texan. It's fun. It's so funny. Reading into all the stereotypes and trying to rebuke all those stereotypes. I'm like, Texans are super cool. People just have to get on board, you know.
That's what I'm saying. So do you feel like you say y'all?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
It was like after I moved here for like a year or something, I was talking to my mom and she was like, "Did you just say y'all?" I was like, "Oh my god, that is my first y'all."
Oh, that is so cute.
Yeah.
You're an interior home designer.
Yes.
Okay. So there's so much I have to ask with the beginning of your journey. But before we get to the whole business part of it, what made you get into interior design in the first place? What was your experience like in California? What made you choose to be an interior designer?
Yeah, it's funny. It's kind of a long roundabout story. But I mean, since I was young, I've always been into artistic creative outlets.
Yeah.
Like, I would paint my room on a whim, rearrange my furniture. I sewn since I was 9. My grandma taught me how to crochet. I just had my finger in a bunch of. I did dance. I did cheerleading. Anything, choreography, everything that was creative.
Love it.
I had a dabble in, right? And it's funny. I went to school for actual merchandising and things like that, fashion-wise, because I love clothes and textiles and things like that. And then it's funny when I moved to Texas, I was just saying I love Texas, but our shopping sometimes is not always there. But anyway, our fashion industry is not always there.
Well, maybe it depends on what part of Texas.
Texas, right? If you get Dallas or Houston, right, there's a lot. San Antonio, we're getting there. And so when I kind of moved here, I was trying to figure out kind of what that pivot was. And then I ended up stumbling into the furniture business and kind of using my eye for design and creativity, but transitioning that into interiors. And then that's when I found my love for it and spark for it. And from there, I kind of just flourished into what you see now and what we have now. But definitely it runs through from childhood of just really being creative and having kind of really cool and fun parents that allowed me to explore that creativity no matter what it was.
I was about to say that I think, of course, there's that debate of nature versus nurture, and I feel like you were nurtured into that because so many people I feel have really creative dreams or really creative ideas and goals, but they don't necessarily go for it or something stops them in that way. So it's really nice to see you have that creativity and you're this is what I want to do with my life.
Yeah,
and
even down to
entrepreneurship.
In general, I just remember I was decided I wanted to sell those friendship bracelets, and my mom taking me to Michael's and buying the thread and making the friendship bracelets and going door to door and selling them.
That's awesome.
It's just as I have really, really great parents, and so it really helps of when you're younger, you're I don't want to be anything like my mom and dad, blah, blah, blah. And then it's once you get to the other side of it and you get older, I'm you can kind of see those bits of each of your parents and how, again, that nature versus nurture really takes into effect into adulthood. So it's really not fun.
That's awesome. You kind of said, right, San Antonio's kind of lagging a little bit behind in the scene of maybe modern. We're a very cultural city and there's wide variety, but to find kind of what you assemble or resemble in your furniture is hard to find here. It's specific places. So why San Antonio? Why not Dallas? Why not Houston? Why not Austin? Why do you pick San Antonio?
I don't know. It's funny. I have a really close friend that, she also ended up in San Antonio by chance, really. I'm like, this is like the first place where I live that feels like home. And she's like, why are you so gravitated towards it? And I don't know. It's just, ever since I moved here, there's like, it's kind of like something kind of like a really warm embrace. It feels just like a warm hug. It's like the biggest small town. Everyone kind of like, you're kind of 3 people away from like knowing a person.
Yes.
And like growing up in a place like California and LA specifically, in that area, it's just a way. It's just such a different way of living. It's kind of everyone operates in their own silo. Like even growing up, I didn't even know my neighbors for a long time. Like I mean, of course, I knew neighbors that had friends and things like that of my age, but when I kind of grew up older, like there's just you don't really know people as much here, and here it's just is a nice. It's a really warm hug.
Yeah.
And I see how it's growing. It's kind of like I think it's the second tourist destination now in the U.S. Like size-wise, it's really big.
Yeah, the 5th largest city.
Yeah, and so we have like so many things that are family friendly, and so again, I can kind of see where it's headed, and being so close to places like Austin and things like that.
Yeah,
you can always drive to Austin or Houston. Not to Dallas, not really that far away, and also like. For me, I love to travel, which and so San Antonio is like very centrally located.
Yes.
So whether to be to LA or New York, it's only like 2.5-hour flight, so it's not far to get anywhere. So there's a lot of benefits to San Antonio that I think that like not many people think about.
Yeah.
Until you really live here, you're like, oh, there's actually a lot of benefits to being here.
I love that she said, right, the whole big city with like a small town feel. We hear so many people saying that, especially from people moving out of state, and we feel it, but we're like, are we biased though towards that? Are we too connected to San Antonio? But that's really cool that she said that. So you kind of mentioned it a little bit, right? Wanting to be an entrepreneur when you were younger. You just were like, you would do things that would kind of lead you to being an entrepreneur. Now, opening your own business is a scary, terrifying thing.
I don't wish it on anybody. It's very scary.
It is. So what made you take that plunge? And especially, I feel like other industries, of course, opening a business is scary, but sometimes I feel like some industries, there's maybe a little bit more comfort because there's such a demand for it, right? But perhaps the furniture industry is could be viewed as like a want instead of like a need. So what made you decide to take that big leap of faith to kind of open up your own business?
For one, I'll be very frank and very honest. I was fired in 2020.
Was it because of COVID?
Yes. So
okay.
I was like, let go. And so I really didn't know what to do. I was like kind of freaking out. Like I was like, what was going to be my next position, right?
Yeah.
And so it actually is like a really good client, a really good person I worked with before in the past was like, it's funny, the clients would really... like they always drop hints like, hey, why don't you do this on your own? And I'm like, no, like, I'm fine where I'm at. Like, I enjoy what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of like I would get a lot of those bits and pieces throughout my career. And then kind of through 2020, I got laid off. And so one of my clients I got really close with, where I worked previously, called me and was like, so are you opening your own firm? And I was like, I guess I am. And so he was like, we're building this dream house, like we're renovating it, like we've worked with you in the past, like why don't you just use us as like your first official client to like start your own firm? And I just was like literally on Google, like how to make an LLC, like how to figure how to figure it all out. And it kind of like, through trial and error, it really kind of like morphed into like this big thing. Now again, it was like at the time, I was really hurt and really sad about like that opportunity. But then it was like, now looking back, I can say it was like the biggest blessing.
Like the right place, the right time.
Right time, and just having like again, having someone in my corner of like, hey, you should do it on your own. Like, why don't you just branch off and go on your own? And it really just planted that seed early on for me to just like figure things out.
Wow. That's really cool. So when we also first met you, one of the first times we spoke, came to San Antonio, you took that leap of faith and you started your business, and now you're becoming really successful, that you're going to open up your own, like you have a new location opening up on Broadway Street.
Yeah.
So San Antonio in the Alamo Heights area, which is a very prominent area of San Antonio, very classic, but like luxurious side of San Antonio. A lot of people love that area. So that location's a wonderful location. What made you pick that location, and how excited are you? This is like such a big step.
Yeah. I mean, of course, it just is really about, brand visibility. And again, there's a whole mental adjustment that goes on with like creating your own business and stuff like that. And like seeing yourself as this brand or this company, and not just thinking in the terms of yourself, but in the terms of the company, right? And so we were on kind of more of the we were more near Alta Vista area, right, which is still a great area. And so we just we had a lot of business in that area, and so it really is just kind of just like positioning ourselves for people to look at our brand in that light, right? We are kind of like a luxury interior design firm. We love to source like kind of unique and like luxury pieces you can't really find. So kind of positioning ourselves in that kind of Alamo Heights area, we just felt was like a really good fit. It was really between that and like, we were like, maybe we should be up north or other things. Yeah. But yeah, I think we kind of were really excited about kind of positioning ourselves in that area there.
Yeah. And I think it's so cool. Of course, Dallas is its own entity, and so is Austin and Houston, and San Antonio, of course, is its own, like, it has its own identity. And Gabriel and I have kind of come to find, right, that San Antonio, depending on which city we're talking about, is maybe a few years behind, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. So that's great for people like you to come here, like, put that footprint down and be like, hey, I'm starting this shit up here right now. So you're making an impact at a really good time, I feel like.
Yeah,
at an impressionable time for San Antonio. I think so much is growing. Like you said earlier, like it's the second biggest tourist city and it's the fifth largest city in the United States. I think I'm getting that number right. But it's just kind of like, this is the perfect place for opportunity. And the fact that you kind of saw that opportunity is super duper exciting.
I say it all the time. I'm like, I pride myself on being a great designer. I know I have an eye for design, but I'm like, if I were to stay living in California, I don't necessarily think I would be this far yet.
Yeah, but because meaning like because of saturation,
just because saturation and just being a bigger city and kind of harder to kind of make a footprint, right? But being located here in San Antonio, where being kind of a bigger fish in a smaller pond a little bit, it really helps you like kind of set a precedent here in the city. And also just with being kind of that big small town, as we say, of like people really will refer you, or like if you get in with a certain crowd, like they begin to trust you, and they really have that loyalty, which I feel like in other bigger cities, brand loyalty or just people loyalty in general isn't as much as some place like San Antonio, where it's like if you know someone like, hey, I know somebody that, I don't know, make shelves. Like, I'll refer you to this person. I know somebody that does tile. Like, just everyone is so quick to throw out a name and throw out a contact, which I feel like I love. And I feel like it bodes really well business as well.
Yeah, and we'll definitely do the same with you as well. So if we ever run across like a client who we're like, man, or if they're like, hey, we need an interior designer, or we're buying this home or this condo, and we're struggling with an interior designer, we will automatically think of you and forward them your information. Just be like, hey. But on top of that, we would be like, hey, check out this podcast. You get to know him. Check out this website. Like in San Antonio, there's a lot of people that just want to like just help. Like you're like, hey, I need a recommendation. They're like, oh, hold on. Here, I've talked to them. I've trusted them. I've listened to them.
Work with them personally. Yeah. It's just that layer of trust, which I feel like a lot of other areas and just business and brands, it's hard to kind of convey that through social media sometimes, of like really trusting a brand. So although all those avenues are great, it's nothing like, hey, I've worked with him personally, I've seen him around, he does really good work, or they do really good work, he's a great realtor, and vice versa, right? So I think that San Antonio has really got that locked down really well, which I love, because I feel like, before we had the means to be able to do marketing and other things. That was what kept our company alive, was like, you know, being able to be like, hey, I know a great interior designer. Like, you know, he does a great job. And so thank you to everyone that referred us. You know, my tried and true, I call them like,
fans.
Yeah, I call them like my first 5. There's like 5 clients that like were my first 5 clients, and they've moved. One client has moved 3 times. One client has like 2 different properties, and like they always come and, you know, trust me with whatever phase of life that they're in. So like, I love you guys.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned like your social media, because that's a huge one I want to get into. So I did have Gabriel pull up your website. So I want to talk about your website, but first I really want to get into your Instagram. Okay. I know it's like your social media, but your Instagram, I was scouring it today, and there's a few things that stood out. So one of the things is Brian the Diamond. So the Diamond Plays. Yes. Tell us about that, because he's a famous TikToker, and I follow him. Yes. So he's just really eccentric, really outgoing. So kind of, how did you make that connection, and how was it like working with him and just having that opportunity?
Yes, I mean, I love him. I just texted him, you know, a few days ago. He was at Rolling Loud having a good time, and so we stay in contact. So nice. I love him. He's so sweet. And really just we connected through social media. I spend an hour of my morning every morning just doing outreach. Like, hey, like, you know, people that I love on social media, people that I see on social media. And so I just really I reach out to him via email and was like, hey, like, I love you. I see you everywhere. You're so much fun. Like, you seem like my people. Like, we emailed back and forth, and he was like, actually, you know, I just moved into this new house, and, you know, I'm struggling to find things that, like, I really love. And, like, I know what I like, but it's hard for me to put it together. And I was like, you know, I'm like, hey, that's why we're here. And so it was a real kind of organic transition there. And I'm like super, super happy, you know, and lucky that I can consider him a friend. And like, you know, I'm like, we're actually are going to be working together again soon. So there's that.
Fun.
But yes, that was a super, super fun experience.
Yeah.
And I love him and Diana and Theodore and the cats. You know, I'm like,
you did a really good job on the place.
Oh, thank you.
I love how you designed it. Now, going back to your social media again, I don't know if Gabriel will be able to see it or he'll find it, but you do mood boards, but you do live mood boards. I have my vision board right there. That's my mood board right over there, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a lover of mood boards, but it's one thing to, like, you see it on Pinterest or Instagram and it's just a picture. The fact that you did a mood board of Eric and Ariel. You did Eric and Ariel. You did Elvis. And I think you did, I have it written down, Modern Cowboy. I was going to say a Southern Cowboy. A Modern Cowboy. Yeah. And you put together a mood board like live. Was that you who did that? That was such a genius idea. How you just like kind of put all of how you created the mood board, the process of what you chose, and it's just kind of like every single thing that kind of popped up. I was like, oh, that's really cool. Oh, he did the waves with Eric and Ariel, and of course, Eric and Ariel is what to the Little Mermaid.
Yes.
So, what made you go that route? It's such a unique idea.
It's funny because I had some personal things going on, and I had a little bit of anxiety and stress just with owning a business and stuff. And like one of my really close friends, she was like, what do you do that like really like calms you down? Like for her, it was like walking, it's working out, it's training. For myself, and I was like, that's a good question. What do I like to do? And I'm like, it's funny because I'm like, design is really what calms me. And she was like, well, like, why don't you just like make mood boards or like just create things, like no budget attached, no limitations attached, just like create. Wow. And I was like, it's like, okay, that's a really smart idea. And then it was like, and then once I started doing that independently, then I started to have fun with it. Of like, The Little Mermaid came out, so I was like, you know, Eric and Ariel's Master Suite, and then it was like different concepts between like, you know, the Modern Cowboy like bar and things like that. So I started to have really fun with it. And then some people would ask like, why did you put that there? And why did you put that together? And sometimes they struggle with like physically articulating that. So with the live mood boards, it was like seeing my process and letting people kind of behind the scenes a little bit of like how that process works. And it's funny because I do get that reaction a lot of, you know, they're like, oh, like, I love all this stuff you put together and things like that. And I'm like, yeah, it just is like my little nod of like, you know, sometimes we want to like display all of the pretty things, the final products, but then showing those kind of live mood boards of like really me like trying this, oh I don't like that, and trying that, and looking for pillows and kind of taking people along through that process.
It was so cute.
It just makes it fun and like it makes people feel like they're in on the
like the creative part. It's just so cute. I think that's a great idea. I think you should honestly continue it because I was all about it. And you should do things like, of course, to get viral, do like the Little Mermaid, but you should do a Barbie one.
It was so funny. I was just like so worried about so many other things. I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally did not do that. But I've seen the movie twice now. So I'm like, I'm gonna have to do something really fun.
You should do one for Barbie and one for Ken.
I know.
That'd be perfect.
Mojo Dojo Casa House. You know, like something really fun. But yeah, I'm like, I'll have to stay tuned. We'll have to do something fun.
I would look forward to it. So that's so tremendously inspiring for you to be like, I was having a really difficult time, going through a lot of like anxiousness, right? And of course, people can be bogged down by that, or it can cause them to stop in their tracks. But the fact that you used it towards like, well, I do like creative. That does help my anxiety. But why don't I just kind of post about it? And I would have had no idea that was
where it stems from.
Yeah, that's where it stems from. I was like, oh, that's just like a marketing thing. Yeah. But the fact that it stemmed from something personal is kind of like even more of an impact. So that's really cool. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it was a lot of fun. And like, so now it's one of those things of like, I kind of keep it in my rotation of like, all right, try to do it every so often of like, so you don't get to that point of feeling that way. Because the thing is, again, with owning a business and just life in general, there's always something that's going to be going on. So it's learning to like ride those waves and feel good in those moments.
Yeah. And apparently with the hit of the Barbie movie, all of these toy brands are thinking about creating their own movies. Bratz, Lisa Frank.
Lisa Frank would be interesting.
Hot Wheels. So perhaps that would be, you got some ideas coming.
Hey, Lisa Frank World, I would love to design something for you guys, okay?
We literally...
I will put all of those designs together. I love it.
It's such I love Lisa
I saw your
Frank.
guys' post too. You guys started Lisa Frank. I'm like, all the colors, all the patterns. I'm like, I am your guy for that world. I would knock it out of the park. I love it.
I would love a Lisa Frank room. I had all this stuff when I was younger. So now that we kind of dove into your Instagram, which y'all need to check out his Instagram, by the way, it's going to be below. You said ZB Home Company.
Yes.
Right. So check out ZB Home Company, even while I know y'all are on your phone right now. So check it out on your phone. Check out his Instagram. Y'all see what I'm talking about. And maybe he's even added more since then. We don't know. We'll see. But let's get into your website. Okay. When I checked out the website, love it. It screams you after knowing you for a little bit, right? So tell us about your style. Where do you get your inspiration from? I know you said you like to travel. So what places have you traveled that kind of what usually sticks out to you? Kind of tell us about that creative process and why you choose that style.
My favorite place in the world is France, specifically Paris. I love it. I try to go once a year. There's like a huge kind of trade show there. And there's like a textile show there. Paris Deco Off. It's like all of the amazing designers from all these ateliers. They like create their own fabrics and do such great things. But anyway, I'm going on a tangent. But so Paris is like one of my favorite places. And so that's a big place of inspiration just because I love a little bit of like, they're very like sarcastic and a little bit dry in their humor. And I feel like I infuse that in my brand a little bit as well too with like product names and things like that. And even like when I design, like I love things to be kind of luxe and feel elevated and feel nice, but like also like nothing is ever that serious. Like, it's like we're in the land of furniture. We're not curing cancer here. Yeah. Like I say it all the time of like when I'm talking to clients and designing homes, I'm like, I don't like when things feel too precious. Like you go to someone's house and you don't want to sit down. You have to use a coaster. Like
it's not functional.
It's not functional. Like I want things to be beautiful. I want them to have style, but then like you should be able to like have someone sit down and enjoy and talk and have conversation. And so I try to infuse those two lifestyles into all of my products, whether it's like it's a really fun unique shape, but then it's more of a neutral color so that it can still be minimalistic, but then you can still have style. Or to me, maybe it's more of a basic shape, but then it's a fun color with a fun print or fun pattern. So I love to like juxtaposition those two things so you can mix it into a multi-million-dollar home, but then also you can mix it into an apartment as well, and it can still have that same level of style in both spaces.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so babe, Gabriel, I want you to go to his website right now. I want to literally point out a few pieces, please, because some of these were super duper unique. I remember when we spoke on the phone and you were first telling us about your website. There were key pieces when I was like, do you remember the pieces because he can't find it. Oh, no, so do you remember the pieces that I remember there was a table.
Yes.
And it was a table. It was brown and it had like, it was
the geometry.
Yeah, geometric shapes.
Table.
Yes.
Yeah. So I called the geometry table. Yes, that actually, was really inspired by, again, I was traveling. I was actually in Barcelona, but I did end up going to Paris. But anyway, I was in Barcelona at a bar and like I saw kind of this really this ball sphere shape like on the bottom of a cocktail glass that I was drinking. And then I just took a picture of it in my camera roll. That's what I do. I love to take, pictures of doorways, glasses, just
like all a mood board.
Yeah, mood board, all things that inspire me on my trip. And then kind of when I was revisiting that folder, I kind of saw that sphere. And then kind of got me thinking of kind of other of those prisms, spheres, cubes, all those different type of shapes, which and then in like transitioned into like the geometry table, which it's like one of my other like really favorite pieces. It's really kind of really fun one, and the color on that guy is really pretty too. That kind of that walnut color is my favorite.
Yes,
also.
Some of the chairs spoke out to me. Some of the lighting, some of the lamps that you have. So yes, that's the table. Oh, I love it. It's so unique.
Yeah, it's
fun. Did you design chairs for it, by the way?
So there actually isn't. I mean, technically everything is designed individually, but of course there's like other things with similar wood tones and stuff that like can be mixed together, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm like, technically there's not a style or collection of the chair, but I have talked of like side tables and other things with the same shape, so that may be coming. Yeah, but
maybe. Wink. Okay, so before I get started to like the future, because I really want to talk about what you have planned and all of that stuff, but I really don't want to pass up. I wrote a note for it because it seems super important. But tell me about, did you pair up with University Health Women's and Children's Hospital? I saw you did a post on Instagram about it. Did you collaborate with them on something or?
Yeah. So they had a ribbon cutting for their new children and women building that's opening, their pediatric building and stuff there. Right. So they do a lot of work with kind of room enhancements, incorporating San Antonio artists. So kind of in the preview, or if you look on social media and look through that video, you'll see there's a lot of like wallpaper and murals and stuff that are all kind of nurtured from like artists and people here in San Antonio. So kind of, they really did. They kind of like, invited us out through the chamber and to kind of come out and do the ribbon cutting and kind of see the preview there. And so, so we kind of, we're possibly in the talks of other things with them. But kind of more of that post specifically was just more of kind of really taking in all of those room enhancements of kind of like the beautiful pediatric wing there. So much great art. They have like a sculpture there called the Nest that resembles like
it was
mother
that really tall
doll
one,
thing, for like the mother, for mother up at the top wing, which is the women's wing, down to like the children's wing. So they have like heart
a
connection. There's a lot of like hearts in like the pediatric wing, and there's a lot of floral things. So they just did a really 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 good job of just. Again, we talk about San Antonio and culture.
Right.
I think that, that's one thing that just can't be missed of, like, they really nurtured kind of San Antonio-based artists and Texas-based kind of people there to just make that experience there so pleasant.
Right. Because hospitals can be so stoic and still and just...
Yeah, like so sterile and impersonal, which is like, I struggled with my own battle of like my dad had leukemia, and so I firsthand understand what it's like. Sometimes hospital is like the only birthday you're gonna see or the only holiday you're gonna see, right? And so I think that it just is something really to be said for how they really trying to infuse kind of love into that process. And so
basically it was just you inspired or showing what you were in, like what stood out to you there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I kind of went there to kind of just show kind of, the art there and just bring light to kind of the great job that they did there in the building. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. That would be really cool. So if you ever like do that, that would be amazing. I know you're in talks, so good luck to you throwing all the good vibes your way and towards your business. That would be so amazing. I could be like, I know who designed that.
Yeah, you're like, I know.
Check out the podcast. Check out the video.
Of course.
So, of course, I'm going to get into the business and talking about the future because it seems like you have such a great road ahead of you. So, having a business, any business, your own business, is, of course, a scary feat. So, what are some, let's start with the negative first, right? What are some pitfalls that you've experienced with this?
I mean, it just is... There's a certain level of responsibility, right? I mean, it is a ZB home company. Who's in charge? ZB, Zavier Branch, right? It's like, it starts with you, it ends with you, right? And it just is like, if you're not, I think not everyone is quite prepared for like that sense of responsibility that comes with that.
Absolutely.
Even in your personal life of like, my face is like plastered all over social media and the website. So it's like, but also it's like when you're out, even in your casual time, especially in a place like San Antonio where like you're a familiar face, there's a certain level of responsibility and things like that come with owning your own business as well.
Like reputation.
Yes. And also just with dealing with clients of like when things don't quite go as planned or if you do make a mistake, just being able to own up and be like, hey, I kind of effed that up, but this is how I'm going to remedy the situation. And being able to like come back on those things. Like, you can't point fingers to anyone else but yourself. And so that is kind of like a bigger thing. And also of like, being okay with like learning, like, again, like, hey, I'm not the expert in marketing. I'm not the expert in supply chain. I'm not the expert in X, Y, Z, and being able to like, okay, like, I'm not expert in taxes or bookkeeping, whatever it is, right? That's a whole other thing. But it's just learning, just being able to like learn and lean on other people in their excellence of like, hey, how can we come together and like just really build this brand with other people? Again, the saying, it takes a village, is there for a reason, whether it's raising a child, a personal business, like you can't do everything.
Really I never thought about it like that.
You can't do everything by yourself.
Yeah.
And so it takes a village. So it's like really being able to lean on other people and their expertise and like be able to absorb it and learn through that process. And being okay with messing up sometimes, being able to pivot and all of those things. One of my favorite sayings is like, if you're going to lose fast.
Yeah.
So it's like,
that's a good point.
You're going to try a bunch of things. A lot may not work.
Yeah.
But like, don't get discouraged and just being able to like learn from those things and pivot and pour that into the next endeavor or the next effort or the next trial and error situation.
That's a really good point. And I never thought about it like that, to be honest. Of course, Gabriel and I have our own business, but you always hear it takes a village to raise a child. I never thought about it as it takes a village to build a business.
Yeah, because I say it all the time.
That's such a good point.
It's like even in like networking and stuff, I feel like, there's like this idea of like when you're networking of like going to meet the biggest man in the room and like introducing yourself and like networking, but there's so much value in networking with people alongside you, and that like leans back into like it takes a village of like, hey, you own a marketing business and I own a design firm, and like we may not be able to help each other financially, but it's like I'm able to like we can help each other with time and giving each other expertise and knowledge, right? And so that goes back to it takes a village of like, hey, learning people and their expertise and be able to like just give each other that knowledge and kind of help build each other up, because the people alongside of you are going to be the people that
your cheerleaders.
The cheerleaders that make it when you make it. And so like being able to forge those connections and kind of establish that early on, I feel like will make a big difference.
Yeah. So of course you have to have a really good team in front of you or it's beside you and all around you. So what are some of, I know that was like pitfalls, and we can all learn from our pitfalls. That's how we grow essentially. But we can also grow from achievements or just really like hitting milestones. So have you hit any milestones, or what achievements have you had in your career so far?
Yeah, I mean, big thing is like sales. I mean, I don't want to sound braggadocious, but it was like,
brag away,
yeah,
brag away.
No, it's like we hit like $500,000 in sales in 2021, which was like a huge deal for us. That was like
especially right after COVID.
I mean, during COVID was like our busiest year. Just everyone was remodeling and doing all sorts of crazy stuff.
Nothing else to do.
Yeah, everyone was home. I think it's like that was the flip side of COVID. Of like, I don't think people realize how much your home affects you until we were all quarantined in our homes, and people were like, yeah, my house is kind of sad. It makes me feel depressed, or it makes me feel anxious, whatever, right? So I feel like so many people were like doing so many renovations. So that was a big milestone, was like reaching that like $500,000 mark in 2021, $500,000 mark in 2021, which is a great part. And also, transitioning into the product line. The product line only launched kind of the beginning of this year.
Wow.
And so that was like a big dream of mine of like having like, just like little Zavier doing little crafts and creating things, like having a product line and like trying kind of infusing all of those kind of creative things into a line of furniture and something that I can like outwardly share with the world is a huge milestone as well. And of course, like hitting, doing some commercial projects is a big milestone. We worked with like the arts residences with the Thompson Hotel in San Antonio, building relationships with custom home builders, kind of help working with their clients. Those are kind of things in the works. I'm the first one to be like, oh no, it's like, don't want to talk about myself, but then it's nice when like, you really think about it. You're like, oh my gosh,
I've done a lot of shit.
It's nice to be proud of yourself. So again, there's a lot of like mental things that come along with being an entrepreneur. And one of those is like viewing yourself as a business owner, a founder, CEO, whatever you want to call yourself. That's a whole nother mental part of it. And so it is kind of nice to like, oh yeah, we have done some things.
Yeah. It's really, it feels good about your own business and be like, wow. I think sometimes in the daily nitty gritty of things, you can sometimes be like, oh my God,
lose
it's been
yourself.
It's been a series of bad events. But then if you really like, hey, you know what, a year ago,
picture.
The bigger picture of things. So I'm really glad that you pointed that out. Do you find that, of course you do have your own product line. So do you find that like every single client that you have, do you try to put a little bit of your client, like not your client, your product line in there? Do you kind of just be like, oh, just like, so like everywhere, at least there's one part of your product line.
I mean, of course, let's be smart in business, guys. That's the goal. I really tried to do a good job of, mixing, like we said, the styles with patterns and all that type of stuff so that so many pieces, and again, I do not design in mind with like a whole house of ZB home furniture because that's not everyone's style. It's my style. It's not everyone's style, but I think that you can still mix kind of these chairs and that can be modern farmhouse, but you can mix that light and it can still be super modern. It can be industrial. And so I think that we try to sprinkle it in, of course, where it fits.
Yeah.
But again, I say that in all aspects of life. Like, don't try to fit a square peg in a round hole, right? Of like,
just put it all underneath a table and just make it all work.
Yeah, like if the project doesn't require, if the project can't handle it, if my stuff is too small, if it's not the right color, X, Y, Z, right? Then like it doesn't work, and that's fine. I have great relationships with so many vendors that if I don't have it, I know someone else that does, right? And so it's good to have that like insurance there of like, you can't only work with ZB Home Company, ZB Home Collection and like use that stuff. So it's kind of marrying that there.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about your future because that's super exciting. What do you have planned until, I want to talk about till the end of the year. So December 31st, what would you like to, what's going to happen till then? What do you aspire to do in that time frame? And also, where do you see yourself like 5 years from now?
Yeah. So
like 2028.
Yeah. For the rest of the year, we have like influencer collaborations like every month for the rest of the year, which is like super exciting. We worked really hard to plan those accordingly. So we'll be designing with some of your favorite influencers and stuff. We'll come out the rest of the year. And of course, our offices and studio life, right? Will be coming out towards the end of will be happening at the end of the year. And then kind of we're working on a wallpaper line, which I'm super excited. I mean, like I said, textiles is like my true love. So that was my first love, not true, but first, my first love. So that kind of will be, I really have spent a lot of time and effort devoted into that. So that will happen at the end of the year. And then in 5 years, I mean, world domination. No, but I love hospitality. Is a big love of mine, like boutique hotels and things like that. So I would love to either, whether that be a bunch of different Airbnbs or kind of a boutique hotel in different locations. Like I would love to really bring that ZB Home Company style into the life of hospitality in boutique hotels or luxury rentals or even food and beverage concepts. Like I just would really want to bring that style into that space for sure in the next 5 years. That's the goal.
I definitely see that for you. Now, do you stage? Do you help realtors stage homes?
Yes, definitely. Again, that is something that we've only dove into the beginning of this year because we launched that product line and we have that inventory to do so. And so we have done that, and we definitely would love to, because again, you know, some spaces and stuff just require something a little bit different. Yeah. And also, again, you know, not as a realtor, I'm sure you know, people are not always visual, right? So being able to put those things into place and stage a home kind of really helps both parties, right? Exactly. Helps the client see, but also gets to see our furniture in a different space, right? Okay. And kind of show people, hey, this may be a modern farmhouse home, but ZB Home Company can still work in that space. And vice versa of like a super modern home. So yeah, staging is something that we kind of really just recently at the beginning of this year dive deeper into because we kind of have our product and stuff aligned with that.
That's really cool. Of course, like you want to keep some stuff to be like, I mean, maybe we have some things working in the pipeline, you know what I mean? But I will say that Gabriel and I have some big dreams and goals. I could tell you when we're not recording on the podcast, but we have some big dreams and goals, and it would be very, very cool if we could kind of collaborate with you. And like that's maybe 10 years down the line. I mean, I don't know. We'll see where our lives go and take us. It could be like next year. Yeah. But definitely.
Hey, we all need to have goals. We all need to have dreams.
Exactly.
Like, however we can help each other. I love that. That's why we're here, right?
They're like, hey, remember 7 years ago with the podcast and la la la? Well, here we are now.
Hey, I'm like, Home Sweet Home television show, something, right? Hey, I'll be your first guest on the TV show. I'm all for it. Let's do it.
Like HGTV, you're the interior designer of our new build.
I love it.
Okay, so I kind of was asking you this before we were live. Not that you're intimidating, but it's kind of like, you know, when people come into your home, you're like, oh my gosh, what are they gonna think? And especially when you have like an interior designer coming into your home, you're like, oh my gosh, this is a person, like this is their job. So what do you think about our office? Not necessarily this side, because this is our work side. But what do you think about like this half this way? Give it to me hard, give it to me good, whatever it is. And what would you maybe change? I would love to kind of see what we can do differently.
It's so funny. I feel like everyone is so on guard when I come to their house for their first time. I'm like, I promise you, like, I'm not going to, like, go over and start knocking things over. No, but first of all, if you look at my website, this is like ZB Home Company's signature green. So like I'm in love with it already. Like the color is on brand for us. For like that deep green and like rust orange are our favorite colors. So I love it. No, I think you guys did a really, really good job. I told you, I complimented the chairs before we were even recording. So I kind of love the brass legs and the velvet. And so it's very on brand for us, the green and the white. And no, I think you guys did a really, really good job. I think that it infuses your personality, which I feel like trends don't matter, because if you decorate for a trend, you're going to be redecorating your house continuously, right? Yes. You have to like decorate for what you love and what feels good and what feels natural for you guys. And I feel like, again, from our interactions, I feel like the office does kind of reflect from what I know of you guys, of your personal style between the art and kind of the photos and things like that. So I know I love it. I think you guys did a really good job. And
what would you add though? Would you add anything?
Like,
what could we add? Because we're always like wanting to build upon it.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, I mean, I always go for the drama of things, right? So, I mean, like.
I had no idea.
Yeah. I'm like, I
love drama. My husband might not, but I do. Tell me.
Yeah, like, whether it be like, a patterned wall, maybe doing a patterned wallpaper, like, on the wall, or maybe even, like, adding some print, I consider myself a maximalist. Like, more is more is more is more is more. My house is a fun house, but I love it that way. So, I mean, if anything,
I bet.
So I would love, whether it's, maybe we do maybe you could do some fabric panels to add some texture, or like maybe, some patterned chairs, we'll hook you up with some ZB Home Company chairs, right? But, love pattern, love color. So if anything, I just would build upon it and just add some more texture. Texture is a big thing for me, texture and print. So it was up to me. And also it's funny, my friends were saying, your toxic trait is like, you feel like every room needs zebra print. I'm like, yes. I'm so sorry. Every room needs animal print. I will take zebra, cheetah, leopard, tiger, antelope. I don't care. It needs animal print somewhere. In every room that I do, it's incorporated somewhere. So
you're speaking my language.
You're like, let's do it.
I didn't know texture. I mean, I like when we do our videos, especially for Gabriel and I are covering like a luxury listing. I'm the first person to notice like, I love that textured wall, or it's just like there's dimensions to a room. I love it so much.
Yeah, even with like neutral settings, you can do a lot of different textures. That's my big thing of like minimalist is a big thing right now, because of the Kardashians. They're all wide, and that's very popular. But when it's done right, and you have the velvets and the linen and the blue clay and just like all of those really great textures,
right?
It is still really interesting. It doesn't feel like a hospital or or anything like that. So yes. I think that's a big key of it.
And you said textured panels.
Like wallpaper, or texture pan. You can do wallpaper or even just drapery panels, right? Whether it's like you can I feel like faux windows and things like that. That's like a big designer trick for you guys. I love to kind of fake things out. Like in my personal bedroom, there was like a weird window that had to be behind the bed. So what I did is I just added some fake drapery panels on each side, add some drama, add some softness, add some print. So I think that that's kind of a good way to add an additional layer of softness, but add an extra layer of kind of color and print and things like that also.
Yeah. See, when I heard that, my mind went to shelving units, floating shelves, but with texture like animal hair.
Well, that's one way to think of it.
That's where my head went. I was like, that's a thing?
But that's why I love talking like this, because even through this and meeting with clients of it really is a collaborative industry to be in, because it's a big thing that I always say. I'm like, a lot of times people don't really know what they're asking for. Because sometimes people be like, my style is modern. And I'm like, they'll show me pictures. I'm like, okay,
that's contemporary.
We can call that modern if that's what you read as modern. We'll know, but it's good. It's like you just pick up on style.
It's subjective.
Yeah, and also it's it's funny how that's where your mind went, but that's also why I love what I do, because it makes you step into other people's shoes and really pick up on those things and kind of oh, I wouldn't have thought of that, but actually let's explore that. What would that look like, right? And so that's what's fun about this job and so exciting about this job is you get to get in the minds of people and really see what do you see when you look at that space, and this is what I see, and how can we morph the two of them to for the best outcome. So that's super important.
Yeah. I've heard this thing. I mean, I don't know if it's true. If it's true for you, please let me know. But some designers, whether they're fashion designers or interior designers, they avoid a certain color. Is there a color that you avoid?
No, I take on everything. Are you kidding me? I love a challenge. I would say, it's funny. One of that client we talked about previously of when, when kind of I got laid off and he was like, hey, let's do this. He loves red, bold, vibrant, stop sign red.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. I'm it's not that I just like red. I just have never.
It's such a loud color.
It's such a loud color. How do you use this all over? He wanted you want to rent and get some capacity in every room.
Okay.
And it was like one of those things where it was like, but I took the challenge. And now it's like, I just finished a bathroom where I'm like, she did let me do whatever I wanted. I'm like, I chose to do red, you know, because it's like, so I love those challenges where it's like, hey, I never really thought to do that. Or even I had another client in Dallas. Purple is not a huge color for me. I don't just like purple. I don't just like any color. It wasn't a huge color for me, but she loved purple. And so we kind of like, again, we had a meeting of the minds there and really collaborated. So it's like, how can we infuse the ZB home style? But still, ultimately, the goal is to make the client happy. So how can we infuse those things? And so I think that my years in customer service before and luxury retail before this world of interiors really helps because you can learn to pick up on people's body language and social cues to help figure them out rather than just relying on what they're saying. Because like so many like some people, well, I try to get on the basis of my clients of like, if you hate something, you can tell me. Like, I have no personal relationship with any of this. Like, if you don't like it, we can find something that you like and build that relationship. But before you get to that point, you got to kind of pick up on those social cues and like learn people to pick up on those things. But,
yeah. So do you like to watch interior design shows?
Yes and no. That is like that's a big thing. Everyone's like, oh my God, do you like love HGTV? I'm like, yes and no. Like, you know, they do. Like, of course, they cater to the mass majority, right?
Yes.
Which is, you know, not always the most interesting, appealing with what I do, right? Of like, you know, like I love crazy colors and things like that. I will say, was it David Bromstein on HGTV? He does like Lottery, Dream Home and stuff.
Yes.
He is like, you know, the love of my life in my head. But like, again, he like is one of the few people on HGTV that like wallpaper color pink, blue, yellow, green. Like he just like he really is one of the few ones that I go crazy. A lot of it, you know, again, a lot of the designers like stick to the realm of like white and gray, which there is a total market for that.
Yes.
You know, and like I'm not knocking anyone's, you know, personal style, but you know, I like a little bit things that pack a little bit more of a punch. And so I do love HGTV. Was it Fixture to Fabulous is a great show too. They do a lot of like cool things. They just like so yes, so I'm like, as a whole, I do love HGTV, but I typically love like some of the shows that focus more on like doing a little bit more personality. But,
love it.
But of course I love it, and you can always learn from it and get ideas, and so I love it.
Life's too short to not have like polka dots or design or sequins or glitter. Life's too short for that.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I'm like, you know, I love my mom, but she grew up in that older time frame of like, you know, when I first bought my house, she kind of was like, God, like you painted every wall, you have wallpaper, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna enjoy it while I'm here.
I pay for it.
Yeah, like it's like, why not? I mean, I get it, it's not for everybody, but like, yeah, I'm like, it makes such a difference when like, for me, I get it. Some people wanna come into their home and feel zen, right? I have some people that like, they're doctors. I have some clients that are lawyers, right? So like they want a very calming.
Oh, because it's just loud.
Yeah, like their world is very loud,
yes.
so they want something very calming. But for me, I'm like, I need to feel happy when I come home.
Yes.
So that's why it's like for me, that's infusing colors and prints and patterns, and so I want to feel happy. And so again, everyone has a different life, and whatever that is, we can, you know, I try to adjust and help accordingly. But for me personally, I'm like, life's too short. Like, paint the freaking ceiling pink. Do a pink bathroom.
Do you hear that, babe? I want a glitter wall one day, and I just want like sequins everywhere.
Do it. There's some great wallpapers that are fabulous with like glitter and like can just totally do it. I'm like, yes, like have fun. I'm like, let's do it. I'm all for it. I'm up for any challenge. And to any personality we can infuse it. I'm like, do it. Life's too short. Why not? Whether that be your clothes, your home, whatever it is. Do it. Yeah. It's your home. It's where you live. You have to love where you live. You can't not love where you live.
Especially when you're in San Antonio.
Yeah, especially in San Antonio. It's like it's so big, and sometimes like we're so spread out because of like the landscape of San Antonio. So, you know, where you live should reflect your personality, and like you should feel like it's your safe space. Again, like one of my close friends, like she kind of lives in the outskirts of San Antonio, and she was kind of feeling down in the dumps about where she lived because she just bought, mass produced, really common builder, and so it was just white and gray. And so I feel like,
like a cookie cutter.
A cookie cutter, I think it was the model home, but it was very white and gray. It was nothing bad, but I feel like she was feeling a certain way about, being in San Antonio and just life choices and things like that. And I think like the beginning of this year, we really I'm like, all right, so the reality is you're here in San Antonio, so like, how are we going to combat that? And so we started we did the bathroom in her office, and we added color, a new rug, this, that, the other. And so I feel like just her tone has changed so much because we just changed that environment, right? Of and so I think it's a big deal. I'm like, hey, if you feel like you're feeling a little bit of anxious or whatever it is about life events, I'm like, refresh the space. Go get a new comforter, get a new rug, do whatever.
That's what they always say, like self-care or get a haircut, and you'll feel completely different.
It will just change. It will change your outlook a ton.
Yes. So I have one more question before we kind of wrap it all up. Yeah. And I think it's a really, of course, we're talking about your future and everything. So what's the best advice you have for people either wanting to start their business or just get into the interior designer industry?
Yeah. My biggest thing is like, don't be afraid, but also like learn to have really tough skin, right? And don't be afraid of like so many of like the arts residences and things like that. That happened because I went on LinkedIn, looked up who was in charge of that project, drove down to the offices and was like, I want to have a meeting. Like, it just was like that false sense of reality of like, I don't know who I thought I was, but I was like, oh yeah, like this is ZB Home Company. Like, why wouldn't they want a meeting with me? Like, it's just like, you have to have that false sense of reality a little bit to kind of, that keeps you pushing forward. But also like, you really got to like establish that pattern. A really good mentor of mine, Kristina Cole, she is in Austin. She has her own textile shop, Canvas. So go check them out if you're in the Austin area. But she kind of told me, she was like, do some research online and like find out what designers you like. Find out what about it you do like. What speaks to you, what gravitates you. Because before it was like, I was kind of pushing myself into that modern farmhouse, ranchy vibe, which is prevalent here in San Antonio. But it was like, when I was like looking like, for your own house, what do you like? I dived really deep into that. I'm like, I love color, I love print, but like, I don't like fluorescent color. I like deep, moody, sexy, sultry, handsome color. Like deep color. And so it was like really diving into yourself of like, what do I really like? What do I not like? I'm really finding that out. I feel like that helped me really establish what the ZB Home Company aesthetic is. Because it was like, if you looked on the website 2 years ago, it was like, it was nice, it was clean, but I don't think it necessarily reflected the brand's aesthetic in myself. So it was like
always changing.
Yeah, always changing. So like diving deep into like what I like, it was like able to reflect that. So I would say starting your own business, really finding out what you like, because if you're trying to copy someone else in any capacity, it may work for a little amount of time, but it's not going to work forever, right? So really finding out what's true to yourself.
Exactly.
And also, again, with like the social media stuff also of like, nowadays with like so many options, right? I feel like in order to capture that true audience, it's like you have to be yourself and be true to yourself and what you like. And so I think that all trickles down into
it really does
all other things that you do.
It really does, because I feel like it's really feels good to us when people see us on YouTube and they're like, Gabriel's very chill and cool and contained, and he's just exudes like debonairous. That's not a word, but I just created it. And I'm just like, woo, blah, blah, blah. And then when they actually meet us in person, we're the same people. And I think they're like, oh, you're not faking this. This is actually you. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, that actually goes back to like Brian the Diamond and like Charlize and the other influencers that we worked with. I feel like we don't really team up with everybody. We really like to team up with people that are true and honest. And I will tell you, Brian, you see him on social media, you see him in person. He's the sweetest, exact same person. Love him to death. And
he comes off that way.
He is like that person you see on social media. That is the person you're going to meet. So if you ever run into him anywhere, go say hi. He will take a picture with you. Aww. He will stop what he's doing and speak to you one-on-one. And like, so
give you the time of
day. And I feel like that is the only way to be in this industry. Because if not, then you only will go so far. Right?
Yes. Oh, I was going to let you know that I love everything you're saying, and after having this podcast with you and meeting you at that Chamber of Commerce event, talking with you on the phone, seeing your website, seeing your social media, and all of that whole entire package, you definitely come off as genuine. Like, I can see you, I can see your soul in the company. You. So you've done an
that's
excellent.
The goal. So thank you so much.
You've done an excellent job.
No, thank you. I mean, it's, you know, we're always working every day, but, you know, to get better and to do more and more and more. But yes, it's like, it's my baby, and I'm like so proud of like how far it's come, but you know, still so many goals ahead. But it's nice to see people from the outside, you know, acknowledge it and, you know, give it praise. So it means a lot. So I thank you so much for wanting to have me on the first episode. That means a lot. I'm like, I had a little bit of anxiety. It's like so much pressure. It's the first episode. We got to start this thing off right, you know?
Yeah,
but
you
I'm
really
so honored,
did.
and I'm so honored and so happy that you know, for that. So that's, thank you so much for saying that.
Well, I'll speak on behalf of the Zachary team, which is my husband and I, but we honestly look forward to seeing you grow. We'll definitely stay in touch with you. We'd love to kind of hang out with this. Gabriel and I will talk to you after this, like some events we have going on. So if you ever want to come, it's just community events that we're starting and creating, along with just providing value with this podcast. But we are super duper excited to kind of see where you go from here, because I'm going to be like, I know him. He's designing for Beyonce at this point.
Oh my gosh, yes, let's manifest that. I love it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's coming. You know, she's touring soon. But I will say another thing about, like, people in San Antonio, I know we don't want to come outside. It's hot sometimes, but we got to show up and do events. And even if it's only 2 people at an event, do your part, show up, support, you know, local events, local businesses. And so that's the only way we get cooler restaurants, cooler brunch spots, cooler lounges and bars. The only way for those businesses to want to come out and continue to do those things if we show up and show out. So make sure to support whoever it is and just like attend events, because that's a big another way to, you know, whether it's whether you can't support financially, showing up to an event, showing your face and being there, or even follow on social media are all ways to be involved in the community and do things without, you know, being able, like, I can't support financially, but I know, I'm like, I'm glad that you said that, because I'm like, I always love to attend any events, especially before COVID. That was the biggest thing for myself in the business, was like going to events and doing things and meeting people and shaking hands. And so I love that part of society is kind of coming back. So it makes me happy.
I know, I'm excited. So kind of done the interview process. I'm going to return it to Gabriel. Boo boo, my love. What's your price point, by the way? That's a good question, babe. Did somebody ask that? We're going to get into the Q&A now. So what is your price point?
As far as kind of, we have all different price points. That's kind of, again, our big tagline or slogan when you look at our website and stuff is unique yet livable, right? And so with that all started because I feel like people get really intimidated by interior design, thinking that, oh my gosh, you have to have a multi-million-dollar house, or I have to make $1 bajillion to have an interior designer and things like that. But I think that's with our firm of like, yes, we love to do really high-end luxury homes, but also we can have all different levels of our homes. So I will say, you know, we kind of really start at that kind of $500,000 home, whether that be a couple of rooms, or if you're renovating or if you're flipping something, right? We kind of have that arm of the business where we can help make those decisions in that price range, but then also that leads us to that ultra high range of doing that white glove service of we really kind of handle all of those really dirty details, right? And like really kind of facilitate that full vision. And so I would say, you know, really for homes starting in that like $500,000 range is typically kind of where we see things start, and then just only goes up from there. Really depends on how much you really want us involved and really need us to kind of walk you through that process.
Love it. Ooh, good question. What don't you like about San Antonio? Zavier?
Well, I mean, it's changing though. I mean, I get it. It's San Antonio, but like, can we get something besides barbecue and tacos? I mean, I'm so sorry. Like,
I'm not going to disagree.
I love it. It's good. There's some great taco spots and great barbecue spots, but I'm like, can we get something else? Especially like
I can give you good recommendations.
It's changing. Like there's some great
like
Shiro's great sushi, and like there's a lot of different concepts that are coming now that are like other
Mediterranean,
other cuisines besides Tex-Mex and barbecue. But I would say that was like the one thing of like, all right, it's good, I love it. Again, these are all things that I see that are changing as time goes on, but. I just like to poke fun at it, but we're changing. But I would say those are the few things I guess I would say I don't like. I guess that's San Antonio.
Yeah. Okay, so I have to ask you because we ask everybody from California, especially. Are you making that face because you know is it Whataburger or In-N-Out?
Yes, it's like the biggest turmoil ever. Just because of breakfast, I have to say Whataburger.
Zavier, I love you so much.
This is why I say I'm a Texan, because I'm like,
love their breakfast.
Like, I will In-N-Out, but to me, I feel like this is comparing apples and oranges. Like, for me, the burger is not the same. First of all, the Whataburger burger is like the size of my head.
Yeah.
And like In-N-Out is just a different type of burger. But if I had to really compare, like, who am I going more often, what I'm eating more often, just because of breakfast alone and the patty melt, I think I'm gonna, and this hot and spicy. I'm like, yeah, I think I have to lean Whataburger.
I love how Whataburger just incorporates like randomly. Everything. They're like, hey, here's a BLT sandwich, and I'm like, that is different.
It's funny. My mom came to visit one time, and she got like, was it the grilled avocado burger or whatever it was, and I was like, what are you ordering? I took a bite of it and I was like, oh wait, this is actually really good. And it's like, you never guess, but like, yeah, I think again, In-N-Out, they stick to what they know and they do a good job, but I have to give it to
Whataburger's just elevated. So how has your experience as an interior designer, this is a question from somebody, do you know who, babe, or no? How has your experience as an interior designer in California influenced your approach to design in San Antonio?
Yeah, I think it's just as like, again, we talk about nurture versus nature. I just feel like I had such a different experience or view on life being so close to like LA and having such a pulse on like creativity, you know. I mean, there's a whole debate of like in New York and LA and stuff, but just in general, but LA still, there's a lot of Hollywood and things like that. So growing up in the industry, I feel like coming to Texas is just as like my vision on things is just different. It's kind of cliche. I never really considered myself of having a gift per se, but it's like meeting clients and doing things of like walking in, and I just say recently, there's a recent project that I'm working on of like, there's 6 people, husband, wife, contractor, electrician. There's 106 people of like, they're kind of struggling to kind of figure out the layout of a certain project, and kind of like, I just walked in and I was like, it's as clear as day. Instead of like shoving the kitchen in this corner, let's just turn it around and do it this way. And they were like, oh, and just like things like that happen so often of like, it's just of like my perspective. I think growing up in California and having more of that creativity nurtured of like my limitations in thinking aren't really there. So when I do design certain things, I'm like, I don't have certain limitations, and I just allow myself to just like, we may not always lean into all those options, but just exploring all those options, I think help a ton.
Yes. And another question we have are, what are the key differences between the design preferences and trends of California versus San Antonio, and how do you adapt those, or do you kind of mesh those together?
Oh, I do mesh them together now, but it's my biggest joke. I always say, I'm like, I didn't know leather couches still existed until I moved to Texas. Like, I like the big leather sectional. Like, I'm like, because in California, it's the white, it's the linen, it's the beachy, it's the calm, or it's the really modern. And then when I moved to Texas, it was like this big hulking leather sofa in the middle of the room, or it's like, gaming trophy, deer on the wall,
deer
like
heads,
deer heads, or like things like that. And so it kind of took me by surprise in the beginning, but now, if you'll see, like, on all I love mixing, like, the pretty dyed hides with, like, the luxurious, like, velvet sofa and, like, the drapery on the wall with the wallpaper. So I will say it was a little hard in the beginning, kind of, like, the juxtaposition of the difference a little bit. But kind of, I feel like that's what we've embraced it as ZB Home Company, our signature style. We've embraced it. You'll see a product line we have, all of those things from like the leather pieces to like the heavier, more industrial, kind of more, not masculine, but I like to say handsome pieces.
Yes.
Mixed with our more feminine, luxe, daintier pieces. So I love to embrace it. And I feel like again, that juxtaposition and the mix of those items
Yeah.
are what makes which is what makes our style. So I definitely learned to love it now, but in the beginning it was a little, it caught me by surprise a little bit.
Absolutely. Okay, perfect. So I do have me and Gabriel have a gift for you. You
Really?
are our first guest on our podcast. After that, you will have your moment to shine on speaking to your camera, sell your business like nobody, okay? So we, at every closing, of course, it's tradition. I know not all realtors do it, but we do give like a client gift, like a closing gift.
That's so nice.
So we always like you, we want to give them a little bit of us or something that shows us and our relationship to them, and to kind of something that they can put on their wall, and then every time they see it they can be like, oh, the Zachary team gave that to us.
I love it.
So I grew up kind of very similar to you. I loved dance, I loved art, anything creative. So like years and years and years ago, I started to make canvases of just like acrylic pours, or just paint, like doing art with like crayons and wax and stuff like that. So I have a piece for you. And I know you're an interior designer, and I kind of saw like deep dark colors, so I picked like a black canvas. I hope you like it.
Oh my gosh.
I hope you do.
To see it.
Okay. So here, and I put our business card on the back with a little note.
Oh my gosh.
But here is your gift.
Oh my god, you guys are so sweet. Oh my god, it is so pretty. I'm like...
And there's like metallics in there, and I tried to do some texture.
Oh my gosh, this is gonna go... Oh my gosh, I have a great framer. It's gonna go in my powder bath. I have a powder bath in my home, and I'm like... the colors go perfect. I'm like, oh my god, it's gonna look so nice in there. I'm like, I'll post it and tag you guys, of course, and show you guys. But I'm like,
show me a picture.
It is so pretty. I'm like, it would go so good in my bathroom at home. So I'm like, I'll put it in my personal home.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much.
But we are so happy to have you as our first guest. I want you now.
I'm so honored to come.
Yes, so I want you to speak to this camera. I want you to shine, and then sell yourself in ZB Home Company.
Yes, well, I mean, thank you guys for listening, of course. ZBHomeCompany.com. That's where you can see all of our portfolio, our previous, projects. Sign up for our newsletter to find out kind of when new things are kind of happening, and kind of promotions on our product line. Of course, the collection is our line of furniture, which is on ZBHomeCompany.com. Which, has all of our product line, and you'll get to be the first one to know about all of our new products that are going to be launched. And of course, across all social platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, is all at ZB Home Company. And yeah, I would like, we love to interact with kind of our followers there. And so if you do make any purchases from us and put them in your space, please tag us. Use the hashtag unique yet livable. If you get any inspiration from our page, use the hashtag. We love to kind of scour that hashtag and find, kind of our clients and stuff there. But yes, we love to be interactive. So feel free to either reach out to us, or if you have any questions or anything like that. But yes, and stay tuned on social media to see kind of all the fun things we have coming up, and kind of our future endeavors. I'm sure we'll be together again, of course. I love you guys so much, and it's been so much fun kind of working with you guys so far. So, stay in tune for maybe round 2 of the podcast.
Yes, absolutely. And I love how you said unique yet livable, because that's on the back of his business card. Your business card is so, again, unique. I love the texture. It's so nice, but I don't know if y'all can see it. I don't, Brayden, if you could zoom in or something, but it's got like a
little foil on it.
Golden foil. So, again,
a little extra, a little too much, but that's me.
No, it's not too much.
And that's the brand.
It is not too much.
We lean into it. We love it. So, but yes, I mean, I will say that's like...
It stands out.
I will say, paper business cards are not, really the big thing now, but I'm like, it's like, it's part of the branding, it's part of the marketing, and I'm like, I'm glad that you love it. I feel like I love to see the reaction when people see it, because, they're not necessarily inexpensive to do, but I think it does pack a big punch, and I love that you love it, because I love it too. Yeah. And I'm very glad that you love it as much as I do.
You put a lot of detail and care into it. You can really tell. And I know that Gabriel designed our cards. Like, we have 2 cards. We have the thick ones, and it has like the gold on the side. And so anytime somebody's like, "Wow, we really like this card," he's like, "Thank you, thank you."
I tried really hard. Well, I love it.
Thank you so much again, Zavier, for coming to us
on
our very first podcast. I feel like some people could have been like, they just started. They don't know what they're going to be doing.
Again, what did we talk about earlier about people next to us, right?
Exactly. So thank you so much.
Of course.
And thank you so much for watching. This is our first podcast ever with San Antonio at Home Sweet Home San Antonio live. And thank you so much for watching. As always, Gable and I are San Antonio's realtor couple. We help people buy, sell, and invest in San Antonio and surrounding areas. So if you have any questions about San Antonio, if you're looking for an interior designer and you need someone to design your space, hit up Zavier Branch. He's, as you can see, he's clearly amazing and he loves what he does, and that will show in the quality and all of the things that can go into your home. So thank you so much for watching. We will see you guys on the next one, and thank you so much. I think that's it.
Bye, you guys.
Bye. Thank you for watching.
Let's go.